Hi folks, Mr. Long here. I'm just doing a screencast about determining the equation of a line through 2 points. So this is all related to y equals mx plus b, and that says is, sorry about my writing. So what is the line in y equals mx plus b form, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept, that goes through this point, 2, 11, and 12, 26. So a real-life context for this would be a piggy bank, which we've used many times in class. You could let x be the number of weeks and y be the dollars. In other words, there's a piggy bank, and that piggy bank has after 2 weeks has $11 in it, and this one here after 12 weeks it has $26 in it, and we have to get an equation that is a piggy bank rule. So how much money did that piggy bank start with, and how is it changing over time? So that's what I'm doing. I'm coming up with an equation. Now, because we're in grade 9 academic, if we have a fraction in the y-intercept or the slope, we're going to leave it as a fraction. But for example, if the slope was 2/3, that would mean $2 every 3 weeks, or $0.67 every week, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's first of all try to understand the question. And in terms of understanding the question, what we need to do is maybe look at a table or a graph. Let's go to the next screen. So we said after 2 weeks we had $11, and after 12 weeks we had $26. So actually, let me get rid of that right there. And that. So what we want to do is get our differences. We'll do that in a minute. But let's make a scatter plot of this. So after 2 weeks I have $11, and after 12 weeks I have $26. Okay, and then I'll make a line. So I got a point here, and I've got a point here, and there's a straight line through that. Okay, so I can do slope in a variety of ways. I can do slope as rise over run on the graph. So the rise, it goes from 11 here to 26 there. 26 minus 11 is 15, and the run goes from 2 to 12, which is 10, so that's $15 in 10 weeks. I can do the same thing over here in a table. $26, take away $11 means it increased by $15. Remember, it's always the one below minus the number above in a table. So that's delta y right there, folks. That's the change in y. Over here is delta x, and delta x is, in this case, it's 10 weeks. Okay, so I get the same results. So from here, from the table, slope is delta y over delta x, which will equal $15 in 10 weeks. Or, and remember, I have to keep this as a fraction, even though it's $1.50 a week. That's 3 over 2, okay, or $1.5 per week. If I looked on the graph, and I did it on the graph, it would be rise over run. So m would equal 15 over 10, which is going to work and give you 3 over 2 as well. The last equation that we use is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's where you look over here in the table, and there's your y2, and there's your first y. So that's your y1 is the first y value, y2 is the second y value, so it's y2 minus y1, which is 26 minus 11 divided by 12 minus 2, which equals, again, 15, whoops, 12 minus 2, 15 over 10. Okay, 3 totally different ways that give you totally the same result. Okay, you can do it with a table, with the graph, or with algebra. And that's a perfect way to see it. So now that I know the rate or the slope as being 3 over 2 or 15 over 10, I now have to get the y-intercept. So let's move to the next page to do that. So I know that 2, 10 is on the line, which is 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks we had $10. there's another point too that I've got, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to focus on that. And I know the slope is 3 over 2. So on my sketch, I have this. There's 2 points, remember, but I'm just going to show the 1, 2, and 10. And I know that. And now I have to figure out what that b value is right here. What is that y-intercept? And so, and I know that this slope is 3 over 2, rise over run. So let's see. Well, I start by writing my equation on the line, y equals mx plus b, and I look at all the information I have. That's an x value there, that's a y value there, and that's a slope there. So I have y, I have m, I have an x value, I can figure out b. B's an unknown. If I rearrange this formula, I can get b equals y minus m times x. So I've rearranged b and isolated for b. So I just substitute my values in. So one of the points on that line, and remember there's 2 points I could choose from, I'm just choosing 2 and 10 because they're simple numbers. So the y value is 10, take away the slope, which is 3 over 2, multiply by the x value that's given, which is 2. So let's see, 10 minus, what's 3 times 2? That's 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. So the y-intercept is 7. So that means my equation is y equals m x plus b. Not a very good plus sign, is it? And then now I can write my equation. Y equals 3 over 2x plus 7. So what does that mean? That I had a piggy bank that started with $7 in it, and I added $3 every 2 weeks, which is the same thing as $1.50 per week. Okay, and that's my equation of the line. So for an equation of the line, let's sort of summarize here. To get an equation of the line with points, first thing I did is I found the slope, which is the best way to think of it, I think, is delta y over delta x. We could do that with a table. We could do it by plotting the points on the graph and doing rise over run. Or I could do slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That was the first thing I did. And then the second thing I did is I figured out b, that initial value, which was, if we look up here, folks, and up here, it's that how I get b, the y-intercept. And that was fairly straightforward. I knew that y equaled mx plus b, and I had a value of y given. I had a value of x given because I had an ordered pair. The slope I figured out, right? I had to figure out the slope. And then after that, all I had to do was, well, what did I have to do for that? Oh, yeah, I had to figure out what b is. I know b is y minus mx. And I'm not sure if you can hear my dog barking, but she's in the backyard. My apologies if you can hear her barking. She's anyway, she's a lovely St. Bernard, but she's barking at our neighbor cutting his lawn. Okay, so y minus mx, and I substitute in y, and I substitute in m, and I substitute in x, and then that gives me the value of b. And in the very end, the last thing I do is to write my equation as y equals mx plus b, where I replace m and b with actual numbers. Okay, so I know that the y-intercept, and I know what the slope is. Alright folks, so that's your strategy for finding an equation of a line in y equals mx plus b form with 2 points.